Hi everyone, welcome. Today's session is an opportunity for ANZREG Leganto customers to get together to share and discuss course rollover functionality. The session's being recorded and it will be available for download from the ANZREG website afterwards. Watch out for an announcement from me via the ANZREG list. I'd like to introduce today's presenters, Petrina and Lani, and thank them for offering to kick off today's discussion. Following these presentations, there'll be time for questions and discussions so we can all share our experiences. Petrina will present first and then Lani. And after the questions, we'll do a quick wrap up for today. So for the introductions, Petrina Collingwood is the Digital Access Specialist at CQ University. Starting in February 2018, she has been working hard to resolve electronic resource access issues with ALMA, Primo and EasyProxy, which CQU has been experiencing since their ALMA Primo implementation at the end of 2016. Petrina's previous ALMA Primo experience was at RMIT from 2012 to 2015. Another part of her role has been to implement Leganto, which went live in July 2018. Lani Valentine is the Systems and Technologies Support Officer at USC. Starting in May 2017, she has been supporting Meredith Mui, Systems and Technologies Manager, with ALMA, Primo, Leganto and EasyProxy. One of Lani's initial roles in 2017 was to continue with the Leganto pilot, and in 2018 she worked with library staff to fine-tune workflow processes and handed over management of the reading list to the library. So I'd now like to hand over to Petrina to get us started. Thank you.
Okay, I'll just share my screen. Can you see that?
Yep.
Yep. So I'll just maximize it. Okay, so as I said, as Sue said, I'm Petrina Collingwood. I'm presenting today about the Leganto Rollover at Central Queensland University. So we implemented Leganto and went live this year in July. And prior to that, we had over 600 existing reading lists in ALMA, which had of course readings digitised, and it was sort of just a place to store them. We hadn't really used the reading lists for anything else, but when we implemented Leganto, we wanted to use those existing reading lists. So we picked 26 of them for a trial for semester 2, 2018. And we added e-textbooks that had unlimited user licenses to those reading lists. So the approach for CQU is that we want the library to create and maintain the reading lists and the primary purpose is to share the course readings and also add e-textbooks as they're available. And with exceptions, we will allow some lecturers to be collaborators and create their own lists. Going forward, we will revise this and change it probably, but at the moment that's our approach. What we need to do is keep staff, library staff time as low as possible. So it is a challenge really. So we've set up an integration between the CMS, which we call the Academic Information Management System, AIMS, and ALMA. And this integration is a PHP application written by one of our IT staff. And it takes a feed of current semester courses from the CMS and also an ALMA API call to retrieve all courses. And it compares both of these, and based on the rules we've decided on, it creates a TSV file, which is sent to the ALMA FTP server and is imported via the ALMA course loader. So regarding some of the timings, courses for the current semester are loaded in 6 weeks prior to the start of the semester, and the plan is to do daily updates until census date, where it stops and then it starts again 6 weeks before the next semester. And the courses have availability set from 6 weeks before the start and 6 weeks after the end of semester. And we plan to write a script at some point to delete courses courses and reading lists, sorry, from when there are at least 2 or 3 newer ones. We haven't decided on that, the details of that yet. So with each course load, we do all functions, so create, rollover and update, depending on what's in that file, what courses are in that file. So if a course code is not found, we create a new course. If the course code is found from a previous semester, a rollover is performed on the most recent course, and that is based on the section ID. And there's an example of one from semester 2. So they, it's HT1 for semester 1, HT2 for semester 2, and then another one for 3. So it's fairly easy programmatically to work out what the latest section ID is. So if the course code with the current semester section ID is found, it just updates that course. So rollover can occur with any course load, but it's most likely to occur on the first load 6 weeks before semester. So back at the start, we were considering whether to just use the ALMA API for this purpose, or to use the course loader, because at CQ we have a bit of a policy that says you should use the API if it's available. So that's what we were thinking about at first, but it became clear fairly quickly that that's probably not a good idea, as it would create a heavy load on ALMA. There would be way too many API calls, and you would have to write from scratch the functionality which is already available in the course loader. And an advantage of using the course loader instead is that the library can change configuration in that integration profile without touching any code. So we use the course loader, but as I've said previously, we also use the ALMA API in order to get courses from ALMA that we compare with the courses that we get out of our CMS. So we use both really, but not just the API by itself. So I'll have a look at the settings that we have in the course loader. So delete associated reading lists when deleting a course. We've selected this. As I said, we're going to delete courses and reading lists when there are 2 or 3 newer ones for a particular course. And so each course has its own reading list, and therefore we don't want to keep them when the course is deleted. When deleting associated reading lists, delete copyright records. CQU only ever has 1 digitised chapter per book, so we don't need to worry about copyright. So that one is unselected. Add instructor role to users. This is unselected. It doesn't stop instructors that link through to Leganto from Moodle or Blackboard from being given the instructor role automatically. But in the Leganto customer settings table, you can set auto add instructor role to false to stop this from happening. About half an hour before this presentation, I had a look at that table and I couldn't find that that one, auto add instructor role, so I don't know what's happened to it. So I'm hoping this still behaves the way I expect it to. I'll have to test that. But as I expect it to behave is, so with these settings, lecturers should be able to link through from Moodle or Blackboard or whatever, and they will be able to create new reading lists but won't be able to edit existing lists unless they're manually added as an owner or collaborator in ALMA. And the date format, that's just the default one, haven't changed it. The overwrite options, I've ticked all of those ones except for weekly hours because we don't populate that field. And when we're updating courses, CQ puts a plus sign in the all instructors column. So this adds any new instructors in the file, but it doesn't delete existing ones. So in general, for any new values you'd like to add to a rolled over course, you'll need to tick the overwrite option. Any field with overwrite checked working this way, the plus sign keeps old information but adds anything new that's in the file. A value by itself will just override the old value. A blank value or no value will delete the existing value. On rollover, set instructors as owners. We haven't selected that one because we don't want to. If they weren't owners before, we don't want them to become owners. On rollover, delete existing reading lists. This is not selected because the reading lists are still being used by students when the rollover occurs, so we don't want that reading list to be deleted. On rollover, copy citation section tags, we've selected that. So in general, we want, each time a course is rolled over, we just want to take as much as possible copied to the next list so that it's complete and ready to go without any staff intervention. And it can be edited as needed over time. So that takes care of a few of these settings coming up. So we're copying citation section tags and citation statuses and making the reading list statuses complete, which they should already be. And on rollover, reading list publication statuses, again, copy those. Copyright, as I said, we don't use that, so that's not selected. Private and public notes are selected. Student discussion, well, we don't want to copy that because that should be new each semester. And the next two, copying reading list owners and collaborators, we've selected both of those. If we made someone an owner or a collaborator in the past, then we want them to continue to have that role without us having to manually give it to them again and again. On rollover, existing permalinks will point to the new list once the list is published. So this is a new one in October. We haven't selected that because new reading lists are created while existing ones are still being used by students. So we don't want them linking to one that is possibly being revised for the next semester. And on rollover, overwrite course instructors, because they keep on changing from term to term, or semester to semester. On rollover, visibility of old reading lists, that's just set to the same as the publishing. When we publish a reading list, we set it to all students restricted, so it should be the same here as well. So Regarding those settings, I believe we're going to share a PDF of those settings from both CQU and USC for your interest. So I'm assuming they're going to be made available on the ANZREG website. I might be wrong, but I did provide mine for that purpose. Okay, so we're still a work in progress with this integration. It's not running automatically yet because we still have further testing and approvals to get. But we're currently using the code to generate a file, which we load manually into Alma. So we're hoping to have that all set up and ready to go for semester 1 next year. So the advantages and disadvantages of an automated integration, well, it's very quick to generate a file, which is good. All the logic and decisions that you've made have been written into the code, so you don't have to keep remembering what you did and why you did it, or what you decided on. You won't have to keep track of semester dates in order to do rollovers because they just happen automatically as long as you've written that into the code. But it is time consuming to set up and test, and you need your IT department to give you resources and ongoing maintenance, which luckily at CQU is not that much of a problem because the library is part of IT. And it was, yeah, they're very much on board with this. Okay, thank you very much. We'll have time for questions after Lani's presentation, but feel free to email me if you want any further information after this webinar. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'll just go ahead with mine. Share the screen. Okay, hello everyone. I'm Lani Valentine with USC, and I work with Meredith, who you all probably know. With our implementation, we had a pilot in semester 1, 2017, that Meredith started, and when I came on board, I sort of supported that and took that over. By 2018, now we have about 100 operational reading lists. So we very much have the approach that the instructors build their reading lists. So if they had a reading list in Alma already from the legacy system, the course readings, that was rolled over, and then the instructors can just add, you know, whatever they wanted to the Leganto list. So our reading lists range from, you know, some might have 2 or 3 citations and some have got up to 100 or more. In 2019, we are planning a full rollout, so there'll be about 650 semester 1 courses that will be run next year. So at the moment, library system staff, which is myself and Meredith, are currently working with IT to build the integration between our PeopleSoft enrolments, so that'll have our course data, and Alma to automate the loading of course information. So we haven't actually got there yet. We're still very much in the planning stage to determine exactly how this will look. So all I can do is just go over the course loader settings that we have. So you'll be able to just sort of compare them with what Petrina's CQU have. So first of all, the active, we select active there, but when you load the courses via the course loader, they won't be active, they will be inactive. And if you have the activate, deactivate courses job scheduled to run overnight, the next day they'll all be active. Delete associated reading lists when deleting a course. So this is ticked, so if we are deleting, it will delete the course and the reading list at the same time. When deleting associated reading lists, delete copyright records. We don't have that set, as we'd like to preserve the copyright information. The add instructor role to users, we have that ticked. We also have a backup automatic role assignment rule that adds the instructor role to our faculty staff, because we weren't always using this course loader to create our reading list. So we sort of have a backup, so that's it'll do it regardless of which way. The date format is just the default. I did have in my notes that worked best, but I didn't write down why, so I must have played around with it. And then for all the overwrite parameters, we don't have anything ticked because we do this manually, and we prepare the spreadsheet and then do it manually. We just prepare the spreadsheet and then choose which one we're going to do. So we've done all of them in the past when we're doing updates and everything. The only one we haven't done is the weekly hours. So you just have to remember that whatever you put in your spreadsheet, you need to have the corresponding tick on the overwrite parameters, which seems obvious, but I caught myself out several times. On the next one, on rollover, so in CQU's had the first one there that we don't have is on rollover set instructors as owners. So you won't see this in that as a parameter if in the Leganto customer setting, the auto set instructors as owners is set to true. So because we have that set as true, therefore that's not an option in our integration profile. So when we put the instructor on the course, it will automatically be the instructor for the reading list, and that just saves us doing that as a manual task. On rollover delete reading lists, we don't have that selected because we need, like CQU, we need those existing reading lists to be there as per policy. On rollover copy the citation tags and the section tags, that just saves a lot of time for the instructor. On rollover citation statuses, we have being prepared. So we try to encourage the instructors to actually go and have a look at their reading list each semester and at least review it, and then they have to hit send to library. And when they hit send to library, that then changes the citation status, or for every citation, to ready for processing. And those filters sort of facilitate our workflow that we've developed. And on rollover reading list statuses being prepared. So same thing, when the instructors send to library, the reading list status will change to ready for processing, and our library staff use those filters to action the reading lists. On rollover reading list publication status is draft, and then when they send the list to the library, we'll publish that. On rollover copyright approvals, we have none. We haven't tested any other options. We prefer the instructors to check new reading lists and process each reading list, so that it's basically a first in, first served. So if there's a conflict with the reading list, the first instructors to get theirs in for processing will have their copyrights approved. So we copy the public note and the private note. That just saves a lot of time. And like CQU, we don't copy the student discussion. We copy the reading list owners and collaborators, and we don't have that permalink ticked for the same reasons that CQU said, and it's just a new feature. It's just been added. On rollover, I've got keep course instructors there. Depending on what we're doing, we might say overwrite. So because this is manual, we are changing that one. And the visibility of old reading list, we have that as course students, because that's consistent with when we publish to our course students. We did try archive, but realised that it wasn't accessible for the length of time, so we don't do that now. We don't archive. And then it's not scheduled at the moment. Just a few things when we were testing all this. at the time we were testing, we found that we had to have a text tab delimited file. The CSV didn't work for some reason for us, but that may work now. Just didn't work at the time. You can't roll over a reading list if the course already exists, and apparently you should be able to do this now. Kendall pointed this out actually. So I've put in a Salesforce case about this, and I think Kendall has too. So if the reading list has already been created through an ALMA API, or you've put it in, according to documentation, you should be able to roll over to a reading list that is actually in ALMA, but at the moment that doesn't work. Many row values must be in capitals. So for example, the operation row in the spreadsheet, it must be in capitals, rollover or update. If you're using campus data, there are currently issues with that. I've done a bit of testing on that, and I've got a Salesforce case for that. Mind you, I don't think it's very helpful because I think I've put everything in the Word document, but basically, if you load campus data the first time, that works fine. But if you load it again, it adds the same campus again with the new numbers. So you might have 3 or 4 rows representing the same campus. So I don't believe that's the way it should work. And it's also not updating the number of participants back on the other part of the course. So that there's a few issues there. And if you're considering multiple course association to one reading list, the course rollover is not yet supported, and that's documented in the October release notes. Okay, I think that's it. So I will stop sharing and then hand it back over for questions.
Thanks so much, Lani, and thanks, Petrina. Julie here. So yeah, we're throwing it open to questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unmute everybody. Hopefully there won't be too much background noise. If there is, I might have to mute everybody again, and we'll have to use the chat. But feel free to put any questions in chat, or ask questions now, or share your own experiences in particular areas of the course loader / rollover. You should. It says all participants are unmuted. There we go. It's happening. I think you can unmute yourselves as well. So any questions or comments?
This is Peter here from Bond University. I have just a couple of things that I've found in the last couple of days. And just wondering if Petrina and Lani might want to comment on these as well. So one of them is with our learning management system, it's Blackboard. We have some subjects which are merged. So there's a and a child subject. And in ALMA, if we put the merged child course code, we're getting a bit of feedback here. I don't know if...
Yeah, we are too, Peter. Yeah.
If we put the merged course code into the other course record as a searchable ID, that supports the students who are enrolled in the merged subject being able to access the same list as the ones that's in the parent subject. But the problem I have found now is that when I ran a course load, if in the course load file, there is a record, a row for that merged subject, and we don't have a way of removing it at this point because the whole merging process is managed in an ad hoc way. So if that row exists and we've taken that course code and put it in a searchable ID, ALMA in the course data load will still create a new course, and it won't give us any warning that that code is being used as a searchable ID somewhere. So we can see that that actually is going to possibly cause problems with students who are enrolled in these merged subjects. So that was one of the things that I wanted to mention and hear if anyone's with that. The second part of it is in trying to figure out how we're going to do course loading. I wanted to be able to look in analytics and retrieve searchable IDs for course records, but searchable IDs are not included in analytics. When I go to ALMA to see if I can export course records from there, you can't view searchable IDs. Like, you can't go into modify the columns that are available and choose searchable IDs. And when you export all fields, searchable IDs are not in there at all either. So I guess that's another issue if people are trying to use searchable ID information as part of their rollover process, that it's really hard to get your hands on that information. I hope that made sense. It's a bit complicated.
No, I think, do you mean by merged subject? Do you mean where you've got two, I assume you mean in courses, like a course that, and there's two that are being combined together or merged together?
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly it. And so okay. one of them is seen as the parent course. Yep. Mm-hmm. And that's the one that is associated to the Leganto list. And then the child one, to all the students, they can't tell any difference what they're enrolled in, but when they click on the LTI link, it's passing through the course code of what they're enrolled in, not the parent one. And so if you haven't got their course code in the searchable ID, then Leganto just won't show them the list.
Right, okay. We haven't done, at University of Adelaide, we've done a little bit with the course loader. We haven't used the searchable IDs very much, and we haven't actually looked into analytics. So that was interesting what you said there about not being able to find them in analytics or in ALMA for that matter. Lani or Petrina, have you had any experience of you using searchable IDs at all?
Yes, we're using searchable IDs and we get them through the ALMA API. So, but I guess that's not straightforward if you don't want to code it.
Yeah.
You haven't tried reporting on them through analytics or getting them as a report through ALMA?
No.
No.
We do use them, but yeah, we haven't tried reporting on them. We just populate it with the course code.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Anybody else want to comment on the searchable IDs situation? Okay. Any other questions or discussion points? It doesn't necessarily look like you have all been unmuted, I'm sorry. So if you'd like to unmute yourself, if you have something to comment on. Has anybody else used the course loader routine to do the rollover is one of my questions. To actually do some sort of a rollover process. I mean, I know Petrina's got a much more advanced sort of situation where she's programming things to create the file. And Lani's doing some testing now, so hasn't got a lot of experience, I guess, with doing the rollover yet, but they're in process of doing that. So has anybody else done the rollover, quite happy with it? You settings similar?
Hi Julie, it's Matt here from Flinders. We did a rollover when we initially got Leganto, and it was primarily just to get the course and reading lists into the correct right notation. So we sort of moved from just having like course codes to course codes plus availabilities as the course identifier. So we sort of basically used the rollover in that respect to basically get the course into the correct format. And I think we fluked it the first time around. So we were happy with how things came out the other end. And we're looking to probably do another rollover this year when we get our premium sandbox.
Thanks, Matt. So in your example, I mean, do you have a different, are you saying it where it's just changing for the year, or was it a whole new structure for your course codes?
It was pretty much a whole new structure. All our courses were initially just in course code notation. And so we went from that to course code plus the availability, so the semester 2, semester 1, and the year as well. And as I said, we basically fluked it the first time around, I think, and everything sort of came out looking how we hoped. And that way then we were able to sort of, when we set up our Moodle integration, have the courses coming in with the correct notation, matching what's in Moodle.
Yep. And I know, looking at Lani and Petrina's examples, it looks like they've got one course loader profile that does both sort of like an ongoing load and the rollover. But I think you've got two, Matt, that you use separately. Do you have
we'll have a few more by the time we get our premium sandbox set up, because Renee wants to test a few scenarios with the rollover. So at the moment, we've got one course loader profile for day-to-day course loading. We've got a separate course loader profile for any oddball stuff. So, for example, if a topic or a course needs to be sort of updated or done as an out-of-band sort of update, we use that one. But we're looking to set up a couple of additional course loader profiles to test a couple of different rollover scenarios and sort of basically use that as once we get our sandbox synchronized, to be able to do that in the sandbox and sort of basically apply those settings into production.
Right, and your daily course loader, that is a daily job that's just run automatically through the job itself.
Yeah, pretty much. What's happening with our Moodle stuff is we're using a backup and reporting, I guess, extract as being the source of data from Moodle. So Moodle, the people that look after Moodle basically have a backup snapshot of the Moodle data, which gets updated every day. It's roughly about 6 to 12 hours out of date. And so basically they send us a file of data based on that backup copy. And we load that in the same day. So we've got our set up to load, I think in the scheduling options, about once every 6 hours from 1 o'clock in the morning. And basically the production load happens around 7:30 in the evening. Right.
Here at the University of Adelaide, we're doing the actual, just the course loader, so it's no rollover, but it's a feed coming from our IT/PeopleSoft. And yeah, that we run that just automatically every day. It loads 2,500 courses, but we do sometimes find that all of a sudden there'll be a new course that comes in that, if we weren't loading it daily, we wouldn't know that was actually happening. So yeah, we've just let it go.
I think with our scenario, we'd be looking to do rollovers as a separate course loader profile. But the idea is to get the file of data each day for our course updates and then a separate file for rollovers, because from what I understand of the workflow, the rollover is probably going to be initiated from the Moodle end. So if an instructor decides to roll over their topic into next year or something, the idea is basically that data will flow through into a file for us to load into Alma. It'll probably be a separate course loader profile that'll go into.
Right, yep. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Are other people using the course loader?
Hi Julie, it's Lorraine from UWA. We're using the course loader. At the moment it's all a manual process. The intention is to build a script as well and import the courses automatically. We've done one rollover. We're about to perform another rollover for our summer semester. And we've done several course imports just to do an initial load for semester 2 and also to update several weeks later the course information, including obviously role participants and unit coordinators.
Okay, great, thank you. So yeah, you're doing it on an ad hoc sort of basis. When you need to, you run it.
We are at the moment, but yes, the intention is to try and make it more automated when we can.
Great, thank you. Anybody else have any feedback? No one else using the rollover, or the course loader, I should say? Any other questions? No, not looking like it. So do you want to wrap up then, Sue? We haven't got any more questions.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Thanks, Julie, and thanks, Petrina and Lani, for your presentations. And yes, the presentations will be included with the recording for download from the ANZREG website after the event. I'd just like to give everyone a heads up that we are planning another session on the Leganto instructor rollover. And if anyone's interested in presenting or co-presenting with UNSW on that webinar, could you please email me or contact me? The date that we're looking at doing that webinar is the 6th of December. It's a Thursday, between 12 noon and 1 p.m. And there'll be an email coming out on the ANZREG list shortly to save the date and with a bit more information about the session. And so yes, thanks everyone for participating, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, Julie.
Thank you.